Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Blended Sense Walk and Talk. I'm your host, Albert Baez. Today, we are on the east side of Austin, Texas at the Schwenke Place Technology office. Today's guest is CEO Brandon Metcalf. He's a business strategist, a recruiting expert, and he's going to share knowledge on how to build the right team and what that means for your business. Really excited to have you all today. Come on. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, good to see you.
Nice to see you. Good morning. Say hi to the people. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, Brandon Metcalf, CEO and founder of Place Technology.
Awesome. Can you show us around the office?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. All right. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you again, Brandon, for being with us this morning. Really appreciate you.
Of course, you guys picked the coldest day of the year so far in Austin. Great.
Absolutely. So today's goal is really to give the small business owner, the entrepreneur, someone out there who's maybe in a business right now or just getting started, give them some knowledge, give them some tips that they can take and implement in 2021. So if you would, please tell us a little bit about your background, what you've done in your career, and where you are today.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of different things. I started in financial services, so I was in banking for a while, and then moved on to staffing and recruiting, or as I always say, fell into staffing and recruiting. So I recruited finance folks for a while, and then I got kind of bored and frustrated with the software that we had to use for recruiting, so I decided to build a different software. So I launched my first company, which was a product called Talent Rover, and I started building a software in 2009. We incorporated in 2011 and scaled it to a global company with 9 offices in 8 countries around the world, and sold that business in March of 2018. And that business, gave me the idea for my new software company, Place Technology, where we're a financial forecasting solution. So basically at Talent Rover, I built all these financial models, and then we struggled with keeping them up to date and how much time it took to keep them accurate and all of that. So now I'm trying to simplify that and make it easier for other businesses.
That's amazing. And finances are such an important part. I've learned myself in this entrepreneurship journey. If you don't got your finances in order, everything else kind of falls through the cracks.
Totally.
And I hear you say, you went on to build technology and build software.
Yeah.
Are you technical yourself, or?
I've always been technically inclined. I can write a little bit of code, although my developers and my co-founders, our CTO, gets nervous anytime I try to do any of that.
That sounds similar. I
know enough to be
out.
dangerous.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's so important, and at Blended Sense, for me, my whole life has been, I think, left brain is the right term. Logic, data, numbers, right? Baseball was my first life, and creative services, I was like, I have no idea. So before we started the business, I dove in and picked up a camera and started editing, right? Just to understand, so that if I'm working with all these professionals, I can at least hold myself in the room. So it sounds like a little similar.
Similar. I'm also not the most creative person when it comes to marketing and content, which is why I love working with you guys, because you solve that for us.
So one of the things that I thought would be super helpful with your background and combination of skill sets was to talk about something that so many small business owners struggle with, and that's finding the right people for the right team, and then taking it a step further, which I think is where there's a lot of value in this conversation, is what does that mean financially, right? What does that mean for the numbers of your business when you're in recruiting mode, when you're in staffing mode, finding the right person for the right team, and then what does that mean for the rest of your business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's the most important thing that you have to get right. Outside of your revenue streams, your employees and your headcount is the most, probably volatile type of financial element you have. It's also the most expensive piece that you have, typically. And my background with recruiting and then doing finance gives me an interesting perspective on it. But, I look at our team members as they're team members. I learned a long time ago from one of my mentors that you don't say people work for you, they work with you, and we're all a team. And if you genuinely believe that, it helps you build culture, which is another big piece that we always really focus on and ingrain in the companies, and it helps us retain people. Finding good talent is super hard.
Yep. So that first piece is a culture thing, right? It's like when you're bringing this person in, what are you bringing them into? How are you treating them, right? What are you providing for them? What's do they need training? Do they need development? Are you providing that? So culture, big part of bringing the right people and to build the right team.
Yeah, and it depends on the stage of the company as to really why they're joining. Like launching the business, people who join early, they may like the idea of what you're trying to do, but they're really investing in you as the owner, as the founder, or whatever you want to call yourself. And then as the company begins to grow, then it's about, what are you doing? What's the idea of the product or service? And then genuinely, what is the culture? So like everything we look at is based around the culture, and we have core values that we live and breathe and usually kick off every single all-staff meeting with core values, and we actually measure performance based off of those values and ingrain it fully. And it really works because you can have conversations about performance issues or great performance or what have you, and really lean on those core values. Like one of our core values is get it done. So are you actually getting the work done? We have radical candor. Like we're going to tell you the truth and we're going to be very transparent, but we're going to do it in a respectful way that shows that we care. But I really think everyone needs to know what's going on. I talk a lot about employees need to know about the financial well-being of the company. So we share a lot of that information. So typically most of our staff knows the financial performance of the company. There's some sensitive things that you can't tell all things, but I try to tell everything I can, because really the more employees know, the more knowledgeable they are, the more they can focus on the right things. And I really try to treat people as intelligent adults and give them the power to think out of the box, be creative, and usually your best ideas come from your team. So finding the right team members is just critical.
Absolutely. I love that. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers then. Losing someone, hiring someone, developing someone, that all costs money. Yeah. What's that like? I mean, again, part of why this is such a hot topic for small business owners is not just because, finding the right people is hard, but losing people as a small business owner can be detrimental.
Oh, totally. Totally. And, a lot of people, when they think about forecasting out an employee, they just think about their base salary and maybe their bonuses. Mm-hmm. But that's not the true cost. It's, do they need a laptop? Do they need a telephone? What licenses do they need? What about the health insurance? What about, snacks and stuff in the refrigerator? Like there's a lot of other costs that go into hiring someone other than just what you're paying them every couple of weeks. And then when you start thinking about training and the human investment into them to really get them to perform well, like that cost just goes up really quickly. Yeah. So losing someone is detrimental. I mean, it's way more expensive to lose someone than it is to hire someone. It's also more detrimental if you hire the wrong person, what it does to the team. Yep. I learned at Talent Rover, keeping, bad performers on actually cost us way more money and impacted good performers in ways that I never realized. So now it's something that I pay really close attention to. But, I think putting yourself out there, being honest, being authentic when you're recruiting people. I'm sometimes a little bit too transparent about what they're walking into, especially with working at a startup. Like there's this big, grandiose idea of what it's going to be. And a lot of the things they think about are true. It's going to be that. But then there's a lot of other things that a lot of people don't think about. Like, there's not a ton of processes and policies truly defined. And we're making small pivots as we go. And some people struggle with the lack of structure. So really knowing who you're hiring and why you're hiring them and what your environment is and what that culture is will help you fend off making a bad hire. But then I spend a lot of time talking about, why should I hire the person? I ask them that question. It's almost always the question I ask, and really dig into, can they answer that and how do they fit with us is one of my tricks. But I also try to get as many people to meet them as possible that are already on the team to really judge it.
Yeah, so good. That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about training and developing people. Small business owners are going to tell you they don't have the resources to do that a lot of times, right?
I would have told you that at Talent Rover. It's our biggest mistake that I think we made, where, we hired people that we hired them and they're a little bit more junior than the experience that probably we should have hired for, but we couldn't afford.
And is this like back and forth play of like well, this is what I have as far as what I can pay, so I need a junior, right?
Yeah, so you got to fit it into the budget, and you need the person, and that's kind of another trick to really understand when you're looking at it from a financial standpoint. Why do you really need the person? What's the value you're going to get out of the role if they're truly successful? What's the value you're going to get out of the role if they're only half as successful as you think? And is it worth hiring? Or could you use technology or something like that to balance it out? But at Place, we're focused heavily on training and development. Not just the technical elements of a job, but all of the other pieces that go into it. Like how do you have conversations? How do you track things? We have a culture committee where they're focused on, fun things outside of just work. We have another core value that's enjoy the ride, which is something else I learned, where everyone works really hard, and a lot of people will work day and night and weekends if we let them. So I'm constantly reminding people to take some time off and get a break because they need it. But that fundamental training piece is worth every penny.
Yeah, absolutely. And earlier you were talking about bringing people in and making them feel like team members. There's a couple things that we do. That's hold town halls and then one-on-ones, right? So town halls for the organization to get aligned. It sounds like you guys do something similar, sharing transparency with where the business is and where it's going. And then one-on-ones. Let's dive a little bit into one-on-ones, because I think one-on-ones are the money saver, the time saver for a leader in an org, right? When they're trying to really move the needle as far on the individual level with their people. So we have them every 2 weeks with our people. Do you guys have one-on-ones, and talk to us about that?
Yeah, so I guess a couple different things. One, we do an all-staff. I do an all-staff the first Wednesday of every month. And to put some clarity into that, it's an hour. If there's less to talk about, we'll talk less. But like last month, we're just kicking off a fundraising round. I went through my whole investor pitch deck with the whole team and showed them everything that I'm talking to investors about, because it's critical that they get how I'm pitching the company. For one-on-ones, I also think they're really important. Typically managers will do it with their staff and I try to be present as much as I can, but as we grow, it's getting a little bit more challenging to be in front of everybody. But they are important. It gives a chance for everyone just to speak openly and honestly about what's going on. There needs to be some structure around it, but I've always looked at one-on-ones as not only going over, what's going well, what's not going well, but really checking in and how are things really going? How are you doing? I like to grab people and go to happy hour or lunch or something like that. It's a bit more challenging during COVID, but we've still figured it out. And that connection is, I think, one of the most important things. I remember when I was more junior in my career and I had senior execs do that with me, it just changed my whole perspective and made me really want to work for that company.
Absolutely. Small business owners out there, I know it feels like you don't have the time, but take the time to speak with your employees, with your teammates, have those one-on-one conversations. They could be massive. They could save you so much time and money in the long run. Let's close out with some, I guess, what you have as a tip, as a leg up, as some insight for 2021 around building your team, finding the right people, and making sure you keep the finances in mind when you're dealing with people.
Yeah, the big thing that I'm paying attention to, and I guess I'll talk about it that way, is we're constantly updating our forecasts. It's one of the reasons why I built the product, or we built the product to do the way it does, where every single hour it's pretty much updating. So we're not creating a static budget and then managing off the budget. We're updating every couple hours what's happening, and most of the time we don't do it, the system does it, so it makes it easy. But I'm really focused on what I call the ramp phase this year, which is the phase right before the scale phase, where continuing to get the right people onboarded, continuing to focus on training, continuing to focus on processes, really not losing sight that customer love is the number one thing we're after. And we did a big initiative last year to define what that means for us and how do we implement it. But really now it's finding the right people. So I'm constantly recruiting. So if you know of anyone that's looking, I'm hiring to join the team and be part of the madness that we're going through.
Yeah, there's nothing better, man, to put a sign, digital sign these days. We're hiring. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so happy to have you. We hope you got something that you can implement, apply to your business in 2021. Thank you, Brandon Metcalf, for being here with us. If you're looking for a gig in SaaS, technology, sales, service, you got engineers too, product people, awesome. Place Technologies hiring. Until next time, my name is Albert Baez. I am your host of the Blended Sense Walk and Talk. If you're looking to be a guest on the show, please email us at hello@blendedsense.com or follow us on all social platforms at Blended Sense. Looking forward, and until next time, keep walking and talking.